Infrastructure is crumbling and the problems are only getting worse. The pressure to find solutions is hot. Let's talk about why American cities have no water, no electricity, and no money to fix their infrastructure problems. Welcome to the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast, hosted by Chad Smeltzer.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast. My name is Chad Smeltzer. I'm your host. Today's guest is Todd Saums, who's the Commissioner of Water Distribution with the City of Toledo, Ohio. Thanks for joining me, Todd.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Now, Todd, I was going through your background. You started as a laborer in construction, just in the field. Let's start where you learned infrastructure and how you got started.
Sure. I graduated high school and I went to the local community college right out of high school, right? Didn't know what I wanted to do. Did that for about a year. And in high school in the summer, I worked for the little village I grew up in, cutting grass, reading water meters. And my old boss one day called me and said, "Hey, I have a full-time job. Would you like it?" Of course. I'd much rather go get a paycheck than go back to, English 101 or whatever it was back then. Right. So I started working in the little village I grew up in, like I said, cutting grass. Once in a while, I would fix a water main break or put a hydrant in. And that's where it kind of, that's where it took off. I went and got a water distribution license with the state of Ohio. And I stayed there for a couple of years, but realized I needed to move on to really excel. I moved to a neighboring community. It was much larger, still as a laborer, but much more focused on, cleaning sewers, pump stations, water main breaks, all the good stuff. Was a meter tech for a little while. Then I went back to school finally, and I graduated, and I got on with the engineering group there, and I was, performing inspections. Eventually became a project manager, and I did a quick stint as a utility director in Michigan, and now I'm with the City of Toledo as a commissioner of water distribution. So, when I say start at the bottom, I mean it was at the bottom. And it took 15 years to get here. Some hard work, good luck, and a little bit of schooling, but it's paid off. And I can't speak highly enough of the career and the opportunities that are here. Whether it's public or private, there's a lot of work in utilities.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's not easy to do. Not most, but some people can get stuck in that labor and never move up or growth out of there.
And they were great jobs. I loved what I did. I miss going in the field. I miss getting my boots muddy. I really do. But I just, I had a bigger picture, and there's great paying jobs and they're very rewarding. I could have gotten stuck and sometimes I wish I would have, but yeah.
I'm sure we can get into that a little bit later, but
absolutely.
Yeah. During that process of when you were first starting and just, I imagine you're in your early 20s or something like that, in learning the industry. What was it like? Because back, I did the same thing. I was 15 and started painting curbs and stuff like that in public works. And, back then it was different. It was like you get told what to do. You weren't taught how to do it. It was just like grab the paint bucket, get out there and do it, mow the lawn. You didn't even know how to run the mower sometimes. And it's just like, get on there. It's not that hard. It was kind of just throw you out there.
I had one gentleman in particular. He was my old supervisor, and I could tell early on he took a liking to me, and he was going out of his way to show me how to start that lawnmower. What water distribution really meant, what sewer collection really meant. So I did have someone that was kind of help guiding me, so to speak, and he encouraged me to move on. He knew I had aspirations, and I thank him to this day, and we still keep in touch.
That's awesome.
Almost 20 years later. Yeah.
That's important to have a mentor early. I'm starting to hear more and more people I interview and talk to. It's like that, a mentor helps move them forward.
Yeah. Cause you can get, you get stuck in that rut, or, the larger organization, there's some more negativity and people want to kind of hold you down. And I've preached that to some of our leadership here and myself. I see these younger guys coming in the door that, are go-getters, and I try to find those and preach to them a little bit. Don't get stuck. Don't listen to the negativity. Just keep moving forward. I'll help you do that. Someone helped me.
Yeah, because there can be that negativity you kind of mentioned, and that can really just not help anybody grow further in their career because they always want you to hold you back, right? Pull you back. They don't want you to grow and be better than them.
Misery loves company, and it's unfortunate. You got to separate yourself from those people.
Yeah, you do. That's for sure. So what did you grow up in Ohio? Like is your family from there?
Yeah, born and raised in Northwest Ohio, so I'm in Toledo now. But I grew up an hour south here, just this little village. Spent my childhood there, and kind of
Yeah.
moved north periodically. Bowling Green, Perrysburg, and now we're here in Toledo. So yeah, for the most part, I'm a local.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So as you were moving up into your different roles and you went to college, I take it, you said you got a degree?
I did. Started with a 2-year degree. Back then there was actually a water and wastewater degree through one of our training providers here in Ohio. So that was something I thought would be kind of low hanging fruit. Went and got that. Realized a bachelor's was probably going to be needed to move forward when I got my bachelor's, and I recently got a master's. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things I've noticed is in order to be a public works director or a commissioner like yourself, everybody wanted that degree. They had to have that degree. Yeah, which I find funny. Go ahead.
No, I don't always agree with it. Right, so everything I learned was in the field. There's 2 fancy diplomas behind me here, but although it was great, I learned some things.
Right.
That there's that stigma, so to speak. You need a degree or a PE or a master's to get to that point.
Right.
I
was going to say, I think it comes down to more leadership training and being able to write correctly, being able to just be a little bit more professional than when I was in the field, look, I didn't care about writing, all this stuff. I was like, let's just get it done. I didn't care, but when you're in a higher up role, you have to be a leader and take a different approach.
And that's where you learn those skills, right? With some continuing ed and some leadership training in school. Most of my job now is that it's management of people, not necessarily, field work.
Yeah, it's how many miles of water main and sewer main do you have there in Toledo?
1,200 miles of pipe, 14,000 hydrants. Oh my God, I should have wrote these down. It's a large system. 136,000 accounts. It's about 500,000 people generally in the region that we're serving.
Yeah. I would imagine that water main breaks have historically been an issue that you've experienced throughout your whole career.
Yes, they are. Yes. Every step of the way I've been involved some way, shape, or form, but it's a way of life here. My previous employer was a little smaller. Obviously didn't have as many. Here, there's one every day. There's 2 or 3 every day. So they live and breathe that. We do 400 a year. It's incredible. They're great at it. They'll go knock out a 16-inch main break in a few hours. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's a lot of hard work, man. Just
it is.
Go ahead.
It's a thankless job. These guys don't realize it, but they truly are. It's cliche, but they're the unsung heroes of the city. 24/7 operation.
How do you, as a leader now, incentivize them to work through that part-time, the late nights, the stuff of leaving their families? How do you encourage that? Because look, the pay rates aren't that great. Let's talk about that.
No.
Look, we're not getting paid a ton of money and we're out there saving infrastructure to keep water to our faucets. It's a big deal for this job.
It's difficult, right? So obviously, like you said, that the hourly rates could be debated. It's not worth it getting out of bed at 2 a.m. It's just not. The overtime here is robust, and there is that monetary incentive. The city's done a pretty good job in the union contract of compensating these folks after hours. Ironically enough, I'm actually looking at my other screen here. I was working with the director of public utilities, and we now are going to be incentivizing folks to get a license. So Ohio EPA offers license, whether it be distribution, collection, or treatment. So I help drive that home a little bit so we can give them a little extra for that professional certification. But
nice.
I do think people that live here and work here want to do a good job for their community. So we have a great group that it's just their calling. They get up at 2 a.m. and come in and fix a leak. It does get difficult sometimes. Don't get me wrong. There are times that I get a phone call that they can't get a crew in.
Yikes.
I think you drive it home and let them know how important it is, the work
Yeah.
that they do.
And this kind of gets tricky for you. I'm thinking as your position, if that happens where you can't get someone to come out at nighttime, then you got to rely on private sector contractors, I would assume, to help out, right? Do you have that set up?
We do. We have some local contractors. Now they're not necessarily set up for emergency work. We haven't
Okay.
got to that point where no one will come in.
Okay.
Usually by the time it gets to me, I make the phone call, someone will answer. So we haven't gotten there. Now the private sector does help out with taps and tie-ins and
Okay.
some of the large main repairs, 24 inch or so. We'll contract that out, but keep your fingers crossed. We have not had a contractor perform emergency repair yet. If they
Good.
heard me say that, they'd probably get a little uneasy.
I'm sure. And the only reason why, because it is a lot of work for these guys, and girls to get out there and do this in the cold weather and it's freezing. And I can only imagine doing it every day.
It is, and it's a little taboo here. They're not huge fans of contractors for obvious reasons, and I try to explain to them they're just a resource in the event we need extra help.
Right.
We're not farming your job out. We're not privatizing. We're not doing any of that. It's just a resource. Heaven forbid we need extra help. We're not equipped necessarily to replace a 24-inch valve. We have backhoes. We don't have excavators. So.
Yeah.
They were resistant at first, but I think they're coming around to the idea.
And there's so much pipe in the ground. I mean, utility wise, it's almost impossible for one team or two teams, even three teams potentially to keep up with it.
You can't keep up. I mean, we have 8, 9, 10, 12 crews just to keep up with our maintenance. We bust at the seams. You add in, what are we laying? $10 million worth of pipe. Those are taps. Those are tie-ins. Those are hydrants.
Wow.
A few hundred lead services to replace every year. It's an incredible amount of work, and you have to get some external resources.
Yeah. Speaking of lead services, I know we've touched on that briefly when we started talking, but how does that go? Have you found all your lead services and now you're starting to replace them? What's going on there?
Yeah, we're fortunate here. We're doing a meter exchange project as we speak. So by the time we hit that October deadline for our inventory, we should have every service line inventoried in the city. I'm sure there'll be a few that were vacant or we couldn't get in, but we kind of lucked out with that. So our inventory is going very well, and we're replacing, with the grant, the sum of the grant dollars we get, we budget, a healthy amount every year. So we're replacing at a fair rate as well.
Okay.
So we'll see how the LCRI kind of works out with replacement, but inventory is looking wonderful.
Oh, that's good. That's good. How about the PFAS stuff that's going on now? That's a whole nother level of now.
Yeah, whole nother level. I won't get into that too much. That's okay. The plant folks. I'll defer to them. But it's just another regulatory issue. We have to deal with. It's constant. It's evolving. There's always something that we need to put our attention to. I've really been driving that compliance here. There are things we have to do.
Yeah.
According to EPA.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some money. That'd be great to do all this.
We would love some money. It is very expensive to replace pipe in the ground, as you know. We will take the state and the federal government has to offer.
Yeah, inflation did not help us with that after COVID and stuff.
No, and you're putting pseudo mandates on some of this stuff. It just skyrocketed price. I mean, lead service replacements are doubled, in a few years.
Wow. And you mentioned something at the beginning of a percentage increase, a growth rate or something like that. What was that?
The road tax levy.
That's 3.2% or something.
City of Toledo, I believe it was a 0.75%.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. It might have been 0.25%. That's another division. But the residents, are throwing some tax money at replacing roads. It's needed in Toledo. They're old. There's a lot of potholes. But that drives the water main and lead service replacement. So as we reconstruct a new road, we want to replace that old pipe and obviously get rid of those lead services. So that's drastically increased the work for the main replacement and, like I said, the lead service replacement. So that's created a whole other issue that didn't happen here just a few years ago. Not an issue. It's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah, I get what you're saying there. So if you got a growth rate, to help fix the infrastructure, stuff like that. But you're talking about a lot of pipe. I mean, how long is it going to take you to replace a lot of your infrastructure these days?
Right now, at our current rate, it's about 200 years. So we're at 0.5%. And, AWWA says ductile iron pipe's got a 100-year life on it. So we're at a 200-year replacement rate.
That's not
We
good.
increased that to try to match that 1%, but obviously, prices went up, labor's up. So I haven't looked at 24's numbers, but I'm sure we're nowhere near that 1% yet.
We're talking about an investment gap of astronomical numbers in the next 15 years. I mean, if you look at the American Society of Civil Engineering study that they did with that grade of C- for infrastructure, I mean, it's like 3 million jobs we could lose by 2039. It's $10 trillion like added to our GDP. It's
Sure,
nuts.
it's incredible, and I worry about those things. I've got a lot of years left here, and most of the foremen, general foremen, supervisors here will be walking out the door in a couple of years. So we're getting older infrastructure. We won't keep up to keep it new. So our main breaks and repairs are going up, and my workforce is leaving. So it's it's
Yeah.
things that keep me up at night.
I was just going to say, how are you going to strategize that? Have you thought about an idea of like what you could do?
Yeah, we talked about that a lot. So fortunately, there are some great younger guys coming up. So I'm hoping to replace that experience with quality workers. But just keep. It's all about talking to your local politicians. We need money. I mean, it has to come from somewhere, and you don't want to sock your ratepayers, right?
Right.
I just don't think it's emphasized enough that this is old, like you said, C minus infrastructure.
Yeah.
It needs dollars. We need help to upgrade it. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
If not, it will not get any better.
Yeah, and if you look at history, back in the 80s, talking to a bunch of people, we were getting that federal money for the water systems, and then it dried up and they stopped giving that money back to these communities. So
Yep.
and that shows now what's happening because we didn't invest all that money back into our infrastructure. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Like I said, we're replacing a 30-inch main around the corner here. It was laid in 1872. It's incredible to think about.
That should have been
really
replaced a long time ago.
Yeah, no, right. Absolutely. Well past the life expectancy. Interestingly enough, it doesn't break. Apparently it is. I don't know if it was install or just better material back then, but it's in good shape still.
I was going to say the same thing. It must have been the installation and the materials. And those are two key things that I'm starting to figure out in procurement processes that need to be like.
You can see a gap,
Yeah.
40s, 50s. There's a lot that pipe, whether it was installation or material, there's a lot more breaks in that, 10-year, 15-year area than everywhere else in the city. We wouldn't have replaced that pipe had it not been for the road reconstruct. That 30-inch main from 1872 would have stayed put because it really didn't warrant a replacement until, it's only 2 foot deep. So by the time you reconstruct the road, you were going to just probably shatter it anyhow.
I always wondered about that because when I was talking to a lot of cities, they would do that. They would do the road and the underground utilities at the same time. So anything they had going on with road replacements, they would obviously fix the underground utilities too. Is that like a common theme typically, or is that just?
Yeah, a lot of the older stuff is pretty shallow here. So by the time you reconstruct your road, you're right on top of that, man. You can't run a roller over it, a compactor over it without causing issues. So most of the time these roads are reconstructed. That water line's pretty old. Not always. Don't get me wrong. There's some new main that they don't touch, but generally speaking, it gets replaced.
What are you thinking about as far as technology these days?
We're a little behind the 8 ball here, so we're trying to get caught up to speed. There's so much new technology here. It is incredible. Our recent, just speaking here, we're GPS in every curb box in the city, which I think is fantastic. All the field guys now have tablets. They can walk right over they'll trip over the curb box.
Yeah.
It was just a few years ago, you'd have to look up like a card catalog, look up the old tap card, and measure it off.
Right.
So, and then some, we could talk about predictive modeling, all that stuff. But it is just increased so much over the last even 10 years, 15 years I've been around. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot and I talk to field operators and stuff like that. And they're like, it's over complicated our jobs, and in
Yeah.
certain circumstances, because some of these systems that I've seen, software systems, are really complex, and you need a degree to use the things.
Sure. I love new technology, and there's a lot of cool gadgets out there. But at the same time, we always take a step back. Do we really need that? You got to
Right.
remember who's using it, and is it really beneficial?
Yeah.
And change is difficult sometimes. So
Yeah.
it doesn't always work here.
Yeah, that's one thing I've been hearing, and I was talking to some guys that do BIM services over at US. Yeah, I'm not at US CAD, but that's one podcast I just recently did with those guys, and they had a great idea. They're like, let's take the young tech savvy guys, match them up with those seasoned veterans that have been out in the field with their intellectual knowledge of everything, and put them together, and that way you have best of both worlds kind of thing. What do you think about
Sure.
that stuff?
I think it's perfect because you see that divide. I see the older guys who don't care to get involved, and the younger guys love it. Right? It's just that
Right.
generational gap. I think it's perfect. Try to overlap that.
Yeah.
What better
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah.
We have some difficulty here a little bit. There's some union contract issues with job descriptions and what equipment they're supposed to be using. So we try to work through that. But
Yeah.
I keep telling the guy, this is just a tool to help you, get to that next level.
Yeah, because eventually eventually, Todd, you probably want to get to the point where you want to have as much analytics as you can and as much data as you can, so that you can fight those battles to get that funding you need when you go to council meetings and things like that. I would
Sure.
assume. Yeah.
Of course, the data speaks, right?
Yeah.
And we have most of that. I'm just trying to. It's a balancing act. I'm trying to get some of that in the hands and in the minds of our field staff without, like you said, kind of overwhelming them.
Yeah.
Want them to see the big picture and have every tool available to make their job a little easier without overcomplicating it, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm almost thinking we need like coaching. Some of that coaching stuff would be helpful.
We certainly need some coaching. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. It might help everybody kind of move forward and get some life changes and motivation, right. I guess. So what are some of your biggest struggles that you had to overcome there at Toledo since you got in that position?
Being the new guy, been here about 2 years, and like I said, it's a very strong union shop, and that's okay. But they're resistant to change. So
yeah.
I come from a couple different organizations where they were very, forward thinking with technology and efficiency and new products and material. Even here, they're a little more siloed a bit, and they're opening their minds, but that has been the struggle of, hey, try this. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but just let's give it a shot. And there's a lot of resistance there.
Yeah.
But I think after 2 years, I've been poking enough. I can see a turn. I can see a turn.
Yeah. Yeah. It is hard. I mean, look, just learning a new software system, how to use it takes time. It does. It takes time for you to really, an effort to try and, start implementing it.
And they're comfortable, right? So City Works, we use City Works here, and it will become our database of record. And
yeah,
throwing it out there to some of the field staff, hey, you're going to be using this to create work orders, and the arms are already up. Calm down. It takes a little while. We'll get there. We will get there. I can assure you. But just working through things like that.
Yeah. How are you doing otherwise? Like with you personally, like how's that? It's a lot of stress, man, in your career and your job.
It is. No one told me what I was getting into. It's significantly different. Obviously, coming from the field and even my previous job as a utility manager in a small community in Michigan, it's just, this is a very heavy lift. It's a 24/7 monster. And there's 150 people in this building. And there's 150 different personalities. And like I said, the union has a strong presence here, and there are grievances. And but I've got a good support staff. 2 other managers in the building. Their offices are next door. 2 great guys, huge help. So I'm now to the point where I feel a little more comfortable delegating, and it's gotten better. But it's stressful. There's no doubt about it. It is a tough job.
Yeah, I'm sure. I can only imagine with trying to implement things, new changes, things like that, and then being the new guy in the position that you are, and it's not easy.
It's been interesting. It has been interesting.
What's some of the future projects you have coming up in Toledo that you've been focused on or working on?
Future projects. So I won't touch lead. That's what
Sure.
we talk about that all day. So we got that coming. I'm pretty excited about. We're contracting out a lot of concrete work, which sounds like not a big deal, but City of Toledo, it's performed by another division, the street department.
Yeah.
Well, there's been so many of these utility cuts, these main breaks that we talk about.
Yeah.
They've fallen behind. So it's several years before you may get your sidewalk replaced or your apron or your curb. We've budgeted some money, fairly healthy amount, to just contract that concrete work out. So I'm excited to see some of those folks that call me once a week to see their sidewalk replaced will actually start to get replaced. So that'll be a big one. Lead services. Obviously, we're doing a lot of main installation. We've got a couple large valves I think we're going to replace. So that'll be neat to see. I like seeing that, 30-inch or 48-inch come out of the ground. That's pretty neat stuff.
Yes, you just kind of reminded me of something that you deal with all the time when you said it. That you're dealing with those phone calls every day, constituents calling, just, hey, when's this getting done? When's that getting done? And that's a lot of what your employees, like field operators, probably don't understand what it's like to, you're sitting in an office, it's nice and cozy, but you're putting out fires nonstop with constituents.
You hit it on the head. It's just constantly putting out fires. And, obviously there's a city council here and they get involved because you were unhappy and you call your council representative and that gets trickled down to myself. So you're right. My wife asked me, well, what do you do? What did your day look like? And I can never answer. I said, it's just chaotic. I just put fires out and run around here like a chicken with my head cut off.
Yeah. And that's something that if no one's been in those shoes, they would never understand it. Right. So then, I never would have guessed. I kind of poached my colleague here from our former utility worked for down the road. And he always tells me, what did you get me into? But he's a blessing, and I think he's happy to be here. That's a good point. You surrounded yourself, it sounds like, with the right people, or you still are, and that's the key to success, maybe.
Yeah, we were really short staffed when I came on board. Like I said, I was driving to Michigan. It was about an hour commute. And with two small children, you and I talked about that briefly, it just wasn't adding up. I was getting home late and it just wasn't working out. So I came on board here, a little bit of a leap of faith, and we were really understaffed, missing a couple key positions. My former supervisor, my boss, he had left. Wow. So I was kind of left standing here as the commissioner with no team or support group. Wow. So I grabbed him, got a couple other folks, pulled in here. I kind of convinced them to come. So we're getting up on plane now, and it's exciting. It's been good.
Yeah, I imagine once you get everything rolling, your system in place for making sure that everything's functioning correctly, then you can kind of just observe and make better decisions, I would assume.
Absolutely. Instead of those fires, I'm starting to put a little more quality to it. So, you're delegating, it can get done with this person or that person, instead of me, staying here all night, making sure it gets done. I got a team now to kind of pass it around to.
Yeah, that's great. And that's what you want as your role is to have the people surrounding you to help you. Yeah.
I wouldn't have made it much longer. I was treading water at best.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, Todd, it's been a pleasure, man, having you on the show and talking about your experiences there in Toledo and helping the audience understand a little bit more about your career. I
appreciate it. Thank you. I can't stress enough. If you're looking for a career change, utilities is very rewarding. And thanks for having me.
It is. Well, thank you, Todd. And we'll look forward to the next time. We'll have some event or something going on where you can chime in and bring some insight.
Sure. Appreciate it. Thanks again.
Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast. We hope that this show brought you some insight on relevant topics within the infrastructure world. Please join us every 2 weeks on Tuesday for the next episode. If you're interested in being a guest on this podcast, please set up a 15-minute interview with your host at calendly.com/Chad Smeltzer.